His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the assembled. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Varanga. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Thank you so much for joining us in the temple today and online. So we're reading Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 15, and the text is 235, and there's a purport to 236. Is anyone here Bengali? I guess I'll have to suffer with my attempt. So, 235. Vatakahi anapita samana prasad anakabe pite vasite kahan aparad. The Bhattacharya said, both the food and the sitting place are the Lord's mercy. If you can eat the remnants of the food, what is the offense in your sitting in this place? 236. Prabhu kahe balakaile shastra agyahai. Prabhu kahe balakaile shastra agyahai. Krishnera sakala sesha pritya asvadai. Prabhu kahe balakaile sastra agyahai. Krishnera sakala sesha pritya asvadai. Prabhu kahe balakaile shastra agyahai. Krishnera sakala sesha pritya asvadai. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said, yes, you have spoken correctly. The Shastras enjoin that the devotee can partake of everything left by Krishna. Text 237. This one is Sanskrit. Tvayo payukta shraganda vaso lankara charchitaha uchishta bhojino dasas tavamayam jamenahi tvayo payukta shraganda vaso lankara charchitaha utishta bhojino dasas tavamayam jamenahi tvayo payukta shraganda vaso lankara charchitaha uchishta bhojino dasas tavamayam jamenahi
Vayopayukta sraganda vasolankara chachitaha uchishta bhojino dasa avamayam jayemahi
Vayopayukta sraganda vasolankara chachitaha Chishta bhojino dasa avamayam jayemahi
Vayopayukta sraganda vasolankara chachitaha uchishta bhojino dasa avamayam jayemahi
Ladies?
Vayopayukta shraganda vasolankara charchitaha uchishta bhojino dasa ramaya jamenahi Vayopayukta sraganda vasolankara charchitaha uchishta bhojino dasas avamayam jayemahi
Vayopayukta sraganda vasolankara charchitaha uchishta bhojino dasa
you. Upayukta, used. Shak, flower garlands. Gandha, scented substances like sandalwood pulp. Vasaha, garment. Alankara, ornaments. Charchitaha, being decorated with. Uchishta, remnants of food. Bhojinaha, eating. Dasaha, servants. Tava, your. Mayam, illusory energy. Jaimena, can conquer over. He, certainly. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. My dear Lord, the garlands, scented substances, garments, ornaments, and other such things that have been offered to you may later be used by your servants. By partaking of these things and eating the remnants of food you have left, we will be able to conquer the illusory energy. Please repeat. My dear Lord, the garlands, scented substances, garments, ornaments, and other such things that have been offered to you may later be used by your servants. By partaking of these things and eating the remnants of food you have left, we will be able to conquer the illusory energy. Purport. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.6.46. In the Hare Krishna movement, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the dancing in ecstasy, and the eating of the remnants of food offered to the Lord are very, very important. One may be illiterate or incapable of understanding the philosophy, but if he partakes of these three items, he will certainly be liberated without delay. This verse was spoken by Uddhava to Lord Krishna. This was during the time when the Uddhava Gita was spoken. At that time there was some disturbance in Dwarka, and Lord Krishna decided to leave the material world and enter the spiritual world. Uddhava could understand the situation, and he talked with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The verse quoted above is an excerpt from their conversation. Sri Krishna's pastimes in this material world are called prakata lila, manifested pastimes, and his pastimes in the spiritual world are called aprakata lila, unmanifest pastimes. By unmanifested, we mean that they are not present before our eyes. It is not that Lord Krishna's pastimes are non-existent. They are going on exactly as the sun is shining perpetually. But when the sun is present before our eyes, we call it daytime, manifest. And when it is not present, we call it night, unmanifest. Those who are above the jurisdiction of night are always in the spiritual world, where the Lord's pastimes are constantly manifest to them. As the Brahma Samhita 5:37-38 confirms, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabis Tabirya Eva Nija Rupataya Kalabi Goloka Eva Nivasati Akilatma Bhuto Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Santas Sadeva Riyeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Sarupam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who resides in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, who resembles his own spiritual figure, and who embodies the ecstatic potency, Ladini. Their companions are her confidantes, who embody extensions of her bodily form, and who are imbued and permeated with ever blissful spiritual rasa. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shamasundara, Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts, with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. Om Ganat Marandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatrivascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the verse once more. My dear Lord, the garlands, scented substances, garments, ornaments, and other such things that have been offered to you may later be used by your servants. By partaking of these things and eating the remnants of food you have left, we will be able to conquer the illusory energy. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in this part of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. They're having a beautiful, loving exchange. And this entire part of the Chaitanya Charitamrita is full of these very sweet, extraordinary, loving exchanges between the Lord and his devotees. So I thought we could zoom back and look at this remarkable scripture, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, as a whole, and then come closer to this section. That if we look in the Adi Lila, there are 17 chapters. Krishnadas Kaviraj begins by glorifying the spiritual masters and offering his humble respects, his gratitude, expressing his indebtedness to the spiritual masters for bringing him this Krishna consciousness culture. So then he goes on to describe who is Lord Chaitanya, his internal and external reasons for appearing in this material world. He goes on to describe the Lord's associates, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Srivas, Thakur, and he explains how this is a magnificent tree, and these are major limbs of the tree, and they have so many minor branches, and he describes all the various branches. And we become very firmly established in the truth of the existence of the Lord, of his appearance, of the reasons for his appearance, of his associates and their activities to some extent. And then he ends this Adi Lila describing the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance and some of his childhood pastimes. But the bulk of the Adi Lila is the philosophical foundation for the Hare Krishna movement, and especially for the presence and the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then as we move on to this Madhya Lila, the middle section, we find that Krishnadas Kaviraj is very senior. He's in his 90s, and he's not sure he can complete the entire treatise that he's attempted to start. So he gives a summary in the beginning of the Madhya Lila of all the pastimes of the Lord. And then he goes on to describe that the Lord took sannyas at a very young age, at the age of 24. And that was a very emotional time for his followers. They were relishing his presence in Navadvip, And now, after sannyas, he was going to leave Navadvip. So by some tricks, he goes to the house of Advaita Acharya in Shantipur, and there's a great festival. His mother comes for the last time to see him, and she cooks for him and for all the devotees. And then he requests permission from his mother, allow me to travel. If I stay amongst my friends, amongst my family, it will not look very good for a sannyasi. So she requests him to go to Puri, Jagannath Puri, because it's nearby. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although he had intended to go to Vrindavan, he changes and he goes to Puri. And on the way, he hears pastimes from Lord Nityananda Prabhu about the various Jai Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda, Jai Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman, Jai Shri Shri Gauranitai. He hears about the activities of Madhavendra Puri, a great Vaishnava in the Vaishnava line, and he hears about Sakshi Gopal, the witness Gopal. And finally, he comes to Puri. And we know there, in Puri, he comes before the beautiful deities of Jagannath, Subhadra, and Balaram, and he's overwhelmed and faints. And he's taken, first, they don't know what to make of it, but Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is there. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is a great logician, has many, many followers, a very powerful personality in Puri. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya arranges the Lord to go to his home. And there Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya thinks the Lord is so beautiful, he's so young, how will he ever maintain sannyas? He's quite concerned. And so out of what he thinks is compassion for the Lord, he instructs him for 7 days in Vedanta. And the Lord says nothing. It's very instructive. The Lord says nothing and just listens to this philosophy, which is not correct philosophy. And finally, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya says, you've been listening and you haven't said anything. Do you understand? And Lord Chaitanya says, the Vedanta is very clear, like the sun, but your explanation is like a cloud covering the sun. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is an actual scholar, that he has some humility, and although he's very surprised by this reaction, he asks Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for his understanding. And when he hears his beautiful understanding, which is imbued with bhakti, which is imbued with love for Krishna, which is the ultimate reason for reading Vedanta, for understanding Vedanta, Krishna says, by all the Vedas, I am to be known. His heart is changed, and he becomes a Vaishnava. And then at that point, Lord Chaitanya does not decide to stay in Puri. Oh, this has been a remarkable achievement to so affect Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, but he decides to travel to South India. And he leaves for 2 years. 2 years. And there are many chapters describing his travels, his activities, his pastimes, how he affected so many people as he traveled by chanting. And he had wonderful conversation with Ramananda Roy also. However, there is what one could say is an unfortunate incident. As he goes to South India, he's accompanied by one Kala Krishnadas as his servant. And when they are just past Kanyakumari, the very tip of the subcontinent, this Kala Krishnadas is allured by Bhattaharis. Gypsy women allure him away from the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead into their camp. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has to personally go and bring him back. So that incident goes on. They continue their travels, and when they return to Puri, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and all the devotees there are delighted to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after 2 years of absence. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu greets the devotees, and when others in different parts of India hear that he's arrived, they come. It's described just like rivers flow to the sea. So devotees in various parts of India come to Puri to be with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Famous devotees like Svarup Damodar, Govinda comes. Govinda was a god brother of Lord Chaitanya, but he becomes the servant of Lord Chaitanya on the request of Ishwara Puri, their spiritual master. And many, many others come. And Lord Chaitanya is very personal with them. He greets them. And then when there's some less people around, he says to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya that this Kala Krishnadas, I had to go rescue him from these gypsies. It's not a very high-level consciousness that he would be allured in this way. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejects Kala Krishnadas from his company. And when Kala Krishnadas hears that, he begins to cry that he's no longer can have the company of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But other devotees are there, like Nityananda Prabhu, and they have compassion for Kala Krishnadas. So they propose to Lord Chaitanya that he can go to Bengal and inform the devotees in Bengal that Lord Chaitanya has returned to Puri. So Lord Chaitanya says, yes, do what you like. And so these devotees give this Kala Krishnadas lots of Mahaprasadam from Lord Jagannath, and they send him to Sachimata in Navadvip. And he goes, he's very happy to have this service. He gives her prasadam and explains the Lord has returned to Puri. And then he goes on, he sees Advaita Acharya and Srivas Thakur and so many others, and they are delighted to hear because they have not seen Lord Chaitanya since he took sannyas and left for Puri initially. So it's been a long time. They've been in separation. So they have a great festival on hearing this news. And then they get together and they decide they will go to Puri to be with Lord Chaitanya. So there are 200 devotees leave Navadvip, and they're headed by Srivas Thakur, and they come in mass to Jagannath Puri. So at this point, when they're approaching Jagannath Puri, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arranges for Swarup Damodar and Govinda, his personal servants, to greet them. 200 people come, and Swarup Damodar and Govinda are there to greet them. They give them garlands and a very warm welcome. The king of Puri, who at this time, because he was very submissive to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he's very attracted now to Lord Chaitanya, to his message, to his personality. And so he sees this meeting of these devotees with Swarup Damodar and Govinda, and he's just overwhelmed. And he says that to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, I've never seen such effulgence in devotees. It's like millions of suns. And he says, I've also never heard such melodious kirtan as they're doing, which is very significant because the king of Puri hears kirtan from many, many kirtaniyas from all over the country. They come to Puri. But he says, I've never heard such sweet kirtan as the kirtan from these residents of Navadvip who have come. And he asks Gopinath Acharya, you please tell me who they are. And so Gopinath Acharya, one by one, tells the king, oh, this is Advaita Acharya. And he goes through all the different personalities who are coming. This is Shivananda Sena, and so forth. And so in this way, the king is introduced from a distance to these glorious Vaishnavas. And then they immediately want to see Lord Chaitanya. They don't go to the temple of Jagannath. So this is quite unusual. The king says, usually the pilgrims come and they go to see the Lord. So how is it that they're going directly to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And they explain to him that this is spontaneous love. This is not according to rules and regulations, but this is rather the flow of their hearts. Their spontaneous love is drawing them to the Lord. And so the Lord, on hearing that they're coming, he leaves his residence and goes to greet them on the streets. And there's a great reunion of these Navadvip citizens, Navadvip Basis, with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they're overwhelmed with love, and Lord Chaitanya is embracing them, giving them garlands. They're offering their obeisances, their love to the Lord. It's a tremendous, powerful expression of how the devotees were longing to see the Lord and how the Lord was also longing to see them. And then they perform kirtan around the temple. This is called the Beta Kirtan pastimes. They surround the temple with kirtan, tumultuous kirtan with the drums and the kartals and dancing. And people are just overwhelmed to see and to hear this expression of Krishna consciousness from all the residents who had come. So in this way, Lord Chaitanya is expressing his love for the devotees, and the devotees are expressing their love for him. And then it comes close to the time for the Rath Yatra ceremony, and Lord Chaitanya decides that he wants to first cleanse the Gundicha temple. So not long ago, or maybe a few months ago, we read this glorious pastime where the king provides hundreds of brooms and water pots. He's already provided for accommodations and prasadam for all these 200 devotees, but he goes on, he said, whatever Lord Chaitanya wants, he tells the servants, you provide. And so they spend their time chanting all the while and making this thorough cleansing of the Gundicha temple, first with brooms, and Lord Chaitanya tells them, he challenges them, let us see who can collect the most dust and sand and bits of straw. And Lord Chaitanya's pile of the sand and dust and bits of straw is higher than all the other devotees put together. And if he sees that someone is not using his full capacity to clean, he will chastise the person, but he does not bear a grudge. It's stated there. He chastises him, but does not bear a grudge, to encourage him to increase his service, with the understanding that if we want Krishna to come and sit in our hearts, then our hearts must be cleansed, fully cleansed. And then the Lord will be very pleased to sit there and make his presence known to us. So then they splash water all over the ceilings and the walls and the floor, and the water runs out the Gundicha temple like a river. In that way the temple is thoroughly cleansed. And then at the time of Rath Yatra, we have this extraordinary kirtan. There'll be 7 kirtan parties, 4 in the front, 1 on each side, 1 behind the Rath carts. And Lord Chaitanya performs this miracle that he can be in each of the 7 parties at the same time. And King Prataparuja Maharaj is blessed because he's rendered service to the devotees, because he's rendered service to Lord Jagannath, humbly cleansing, sweeping in front of the cart. He's blessed that he can see that the Lord is appearing in 7 places at once. It's absolutely glorious. And the kirtan is tumultuous. It's completely tumultuous. The devotees are overwhelmed, as Prabhupada is saying in this purport, chanting, dancing, and honoring prasadam, eating the remnants of food. They're very, very important. So we see this continually in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, especially in this Madhya Lila. And then as the Rath Yatra goes on, Lord Chaitanya rests in the garden, and then King Prataparudra, after so much desiring to have the darshan of the Lord, he takes off his royal dress. He dresses very simply as a Vaishnava, and he was able to massage the Lord and recite beautiful prayers from the 10th canto for the pleasure of the Lord. So then after Rath Yatra, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sits with the devotees, and there's a remarkable exchange because he knows each devotee personally, and he gives instructions to each and every devotee according to their consciousness. For instance, to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and his brother, Vidyavachaspati, he says that the Lord appears in this world in 2 forms, in a wooden form and also in a liquid form, as a river, as water. And he tells Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya that you can worship the Lord in his wooden form as Lord Jagannath, and his brother, Vidyavachaspati, you worship Mother Ganges. And so in this way he goes to each and every devotee, glorifying them and giving them sometimes very special instructions. Vasudev Dutt, a very humble devotee of the Lord, he prays to the Lord that he feels there's so much suffering in this world, and it's too painful for him to see all the living entities suffering as they are in this world. So he prays to the Lord, you allow me to suffer on their behalf. I will stay in hell unlimitedly, and they can be liberated. They can go back to God, and all the living entities. And Lord Chaitanya just cries to hear this appeal, because it's a very genuine appeal. He is so compassionate. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells him that it's not surprising, because you're Prahlad Maharaj himself, who has so much compassion for all living entities. And he said, Krishna is not impotent. If Krishna wants to take the karma of all living entities, he can do that. He can liberate them, and you don't have to suffer. You can also be liberated. So in this way, there's so many beautiful, beautiful exchanges. There's one with Murari Gupta. Murari Gupta is a great devotee of Lord Ramachandra. And Lord Chaitanya appeals to him at one point and says, Lord Krishna is so sweet. His pastimes are so extraordinarily diverse and attractive. You please worship Lord Krishna. And because Murari Gupta is a very humble servant, he agrees, but then that night he's overwhelmed. How can he leave the service of Lord Ramachandra? It is not possible. He can't sleep throughout the night. He cries. And finally in the morning he says to Lord Chaitanya, my head is sold at the feet of Lord Ram. I cannot give it up. You please allow me to leave my body. I'm just so confused and conflicted. And Lord Chaitanya applauds him, saying that you are a great Vaishnava devotee of Lord Ram. You're actually Hanuman, so how could you possibly leave the service of Lord Ram? And he glorifies him for his staunch loyalty to Lord Ram. So in this way, there's so many beautiful, beautiful exchanges of love between the Lord and his devotees, very individually, very personally. And finally, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that he would like the devotees now. It's been 4 months they've been in Jagannath Puri. It's time for them to return to Bengal, to Navadvip. And so they do that, they return. And it's at this point that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya feels that now perhaps he can invite the Lord to his home for prasadam. Now the devotees have returned to Navadvip, and now there's perhaps this opportunity. So we find this exchange, this very loving exchange. Lord Chaitanya refuses to come to the home of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya for 30 days in a row. He says, no, this is not appropriate for a sannyasi. So they go back and forth, back and forth. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says one day. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya says that's not enough, insufficient. So they finally arrive at 5 days, and it's agreed. And we learned Lord Chaitanya comes into the home of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and he sees this amazing array of prasadam that he and his wife have prepared in 6 hours. It's just so many preparations, all different types of extraordinary preparations. Some of them there were no translations for. We just had to hear the Bengali and wonder what amazing preparation this was. So now Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is ready for the Lord to sit down and honor his lunch. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declines, saying this is where it was offered. It was used by Krishna. It's a worshipable place. And Bhattacharya is, again, there's this little bantering back and forth. He says, the food and the sitting place are the Lord's mercy. If you can eat the remnants of the food, what is the offense of your sitting in this place? Because Bhattacharya is aware that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, none different from Krishna. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is playing this role as a servant. And so he's wants to maintain this. But here he's, in this verse that we read today, he's saying that the devotee can partake of everything left by Krishna. However, last week we heard a class by Jayadvaita Swami, and we heard that according to etiquette, things used by Krishna should not be used by anyone else. Similarly, things used by the spiritual master should not be used by anyone else. That is the etiquette. Whatever is used by Krishna or the spiritual master is worshipable. In particular, their sitting or eating places should not be used by anyone else. A devotee must be very careful to observe this. So it means no one sits on Srila Prabhupada's Vyasasana. And if we go upstairs, Srila Prabhupada has that place where he would sit. Prabhupada was in Bhaktivedanta Manor for 103 days. And he would sit very often and greet guests, where we see him now, his murti, he's translating. But also, Srila Prabhupada would take prasadam where the bay windows are. We have films and photographs, especially on his Vyasa Puja day, the day after Janmashtami. They brought so many dishes there and they put them right where the bay windows are. At that time it was a wooden floor there, and Prabhupada sat on the carpet that was near and he would taste. You can see in the film he's tasting. So actually that spot is also a worshipable spot for future reference. We hope to restore it as it was. So this, it's mentioned that this verse that we read today is from Srimad Bhagavatam, the 11th canto, part of the teachings to Uddhava, the Uddhava Gita. So on this occasion, there was a disturbance in Dwarka. We know that the young boys of Dwarka were teasing some sages. They dressed up Samba as if he was pregnant, and they asked the sages, will it be a boy or a girl? And the sages knew that this was just some teasing by these young boys, and they said what will be delivered will be the cause of the destruction of the Yadu dynasty. And so all of a sudden the boys left their frivolous nature aside, and they became very afraid because the sages are very powerful. And what was delivered was an iron lump that they gave to King Ugrasena, great fear. And King Ugrasena had it ground up and thrown in the ocean, hoping to defy the prophecy. But unfortunately, prophecies given by such great sages cannot be defied. And so as things go on, there's some disturbance apparently in Dwarka. Actually, with Krishna's presence, there cannot be disturbances, but apparently there are disturbances. And Krishna, seeing these disturbances, tells his dynasty members, the Yadavas, that we have a curse upon our dynasty. And we should go to Prabhas. You should all go to Prabhas and do pious activities to try to defy this curse, counteract the curse. And so the Yadavas agree and they leave for Prabhas. However, Uddhava is very intelligent, a very close associate of the Lord, and he approaches the Lord and says, I understand you're going to leave now. And indeed, that was the intention. Lord Brahma came with so many demigods to Dwarka, and they approached Lord Krishna and said that 125 years ago we prayed to you that the earth was overburdened by demons, and we prayed that you come and conquer the demons, protect the devotees, reestablish the principles of religion. And you have done that over the past 125 years. So now, my Lord, if you so desire, you can go back to your own kingdom. This was the prayer of Brahma and so many demigods that came. So the Lord indeed was planning to return to his own kingdom, and Uddhava knew this, and so he approached the Lord and he said, I cannot bear separation from you. Please allow me to go with you. And the Lord did not want that. He wanted Uddhava to stay as his representative. And so this, in this relation, this verse was spoken, that we can overcome the illusory energy by taking advantage of the remnants of the Lord, the garlands, the scented substances, the garments, the ornaments, and other such things that have been offered to the Lord. So these are a few thoughts about this verse. I might mention that this Madhya Lila has so many of these beautiful, beautiful, loving exchanges. But if we go to the final section of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Antya Lila, in general it's a very different mood, more like pathos, if you think. There's the passing of Haridas Thakur, the chastisement of Chota Haridas, there's Gopinath Patanayaka, who's going to be thrown on the Changya as a punishment. There's a lot of very dramatic, emotional sections of the Antya Lila, or to speak of Lord Chaitanya's ecstasies and madness. He throws himself into the ocean in an unconscious state. So each section has very different moods, and we're now in this very sweet section. So I wanted to take a few minutes to glorify our great Acharya, Srila Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, whose disappearance day is today. I have some little things we can read here. He was born in 1838 and left this world in 1915. And he is the great spiritual master of Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur. And it was rather astonishing because Gorkishore Das Babaji was a very simple devotee in one sense, that he was a grihasta, and when he was about 29 or 30, his wife passed away. And so at that time, he took this Babaji initiation through a disciple of Jagannath Das Babaji. And he lived for 30 years in Vrindavan, extremely simply, extremely austere. He would just beg a little madhukari from different householders. If he felt hungry, he would eat mud from the banks of the river. He lived without any comforts at all. And he was known that he was not well educated, which is interesting because in this purport that we just read today, Prabhupada writes, one may be illiterate or incapable of understanding the philosophy, but if he partakes of these three items, which are yes, chanting, dancing, and prasadam, he will certainly be liberated without delay. So Gorkishore Das Babaji appeared to be illiterate. However, he was enlightened from within his heart by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If anyone asked him any question on the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, he could provide a beautiful, lucid answer exactly according to the Shastric authorities. However, he was known as illiterate, and meanwhile Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur was an extraordinary scholar. And so when he was a young man and ready to become initiated, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's father recommended that he take initiation from Gorkishore Das Babaji. And so this was a surprise perhaps for many people. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur humbly describes his realizations after his first meeting with Srila Gorkishore Das Babaji. This is a quote directly from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. For so long I have been living in this material world, trying to bring sense gratification within the grasp of my hand. I often thought that the sense objects would fulfill all my shortcomings. I even attained different facets of enjoyment that were indeed rare, but my personal needs were never met. I had the association of aristocratic persons, but seeing their different faults, I could not praise them. The most merciful Lord, Sri Gaurasundar, seeing me in this lamentable condition of adversity, permitted his two most intimate associates to bestow their mercy upon me. I was always intoxicated with worldly false ego and the desire for name and fame. I deprived myself of my real benefit, but because of the influence of the devotional service rendered in my personal previous lives, I came into the association of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who is my spiritual well-wisher. My spiritual guide, Srila Gorkishore, would come and visit Srila Bhaktivinoda many times and often live with him. Srila Bhaktivinoda, out of his compassion for me, pointed out my spiritual master, Srila Gorkishore. After glancing upon the divine figure of my master, the extent of my false ego was diminished. But by gradually observing the wonderful spiritual qualities of my master, Srila Gorkishore Das Babaji, I realized that a Vaishnava could live in this material world and be of exemplary character. Hare Krishna. So we have, I think, a few minutes if there's any discussion about these various points.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I just had a question. So generally we see that the effect of a medicine, part of it is like the efficacy of any medicine that we take. Part of it is the placebo effect, which depends on our attitude as the eater of the medicine. And part of it is the actual potency of the medicine itself. Now, we see the verse over the Kalamrityu Haranam, which talks about the potency of the Charnamrit being able to cure us of our diseases. Also, we see the potency of the scented substances, the garlands, the garments and ornaments in being able to conquer the illusory energy. But then, having partaken these and having, taken Charnamrit, I still don't find myself having conquered diseases or being free from illusory energy. So how do I understand this?
Yeah. That in the book Perfect Questions, Perfect Answers, Prabhupada talks about prasadam at one point, and that Brahmatirtha Prabhu, who was the questioner giving the perfect questions, he mentions that he understands prasadam has so much potency, and yet sometimes he takes prasadam and it's too spicy and it hurts him, he can't digest it properly. And so Prabhupada there mentions that for those who are in a very exalted stage of life, their consciousness is with Krishna, then they can eat anything, just like Krishna. When he was offered a banana peel, accidentally, he ate the bananas, in ecstasy. Vidura's wife, accidentally threw away the banana and offered the peel to the Lord when he visited their home. So Krishna ate the banana peel and was pleased. So the devotee on the highest level can take any prasadam and honor it as remnants from Krishna if it's been offered with love. But for those of us who are not on that platform, we make distinction what is digestible, what is good for us, what may not be good for our bodies. So it's very much a matter of our own consciousness, but there is this agyata sukriti, that's unknown pious activities, in the sense that when we chant Hare Krishna on Oxford Street, so many people don't know what it is. They may make fun of it, they may try to ignore it, they may hold their ears, but by hearing it, they're getting benefit, small benefit, but that benefit is theirs eternally. And so in that way, that benefit can gradually build up until they're ready themselves to chant. And as they go on chanting, they relish the chanting increasingly until it becomes this full-blown love. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for your beautiful and elaborate class. My question is regarding the last bit which you read, where Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj said that when he saw Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, his false ego diminished. So my question is that something which has to happen, or is just particularly for him? And if it's something which it needs to happen, if it's not happening, what does it mean when we meet our spiritual master or we get initiation?
Yeah, certainly this is stated out of his humility, but it is stated for our benefit that we do want our false ego to diminish to nil, for sure. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said that when he chanted, he was overwhelmed by ecstasy, and he went to his spiritual master and tried to understand what was happening to him. And he said, his spiritual master said, "You're a fool. You're a fool." And that is actually the mood that the disciple comes before the spiritual master in, that we don't want any false ego to be there. The false ego means we're identifying with our own mind, with our own body, and that is not helpful in spiritual life. So one who considers himself very foolish, the false ego is diminishing if we genuinely feel ourselves foolish. And that's beneficial for us, for our spiritual progress. Not just beneficial, but necessary. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was an erudite scholar in his pastimes growing up in Navadvip. He excelled all others in his scholarship. Brilliant as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there's no question of him actually being a fool. But all of us should feel foolish before our spiritual master, because then we can open ourselves to his instruction, his example. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your nicely prepared class. Just a comment. I'm wondering what you think about this. Sometimes the verses in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when they're quoted, they're slightly different from how they appear in the Bhagavatam. Like, for example, today's verse, upayukta, whereas in the Bhagavatam it's upabhukta. So like it talks about things that are used, upayukta, or things that are enjoyed by the Lord, upabhukta. And there's some other verses like that. So it seems that we don't have a definitive Bhagavatam, because sometimes the verses are slightly different depending on which scripture they come in.
Mm. Yeah, this scholarly devotee, Radhika Raman Prabhu, he gave a discourse about the glories of the Bhagavatam when he was in Silicon Valley Temple. And he mentioned that there are many, many versions of Ramayana, many, many versions of Mahabharata. But he said the Bhagavatam is very much consistent. And there may be small differences like this, but the meaning is not changed. The meaning remains true. Whereas in these others, you get wide variances. Like it's stated, I think Hridayananda Maharaj states that Madhvacharya says that the Mahabharata has become a corrupted text. There's so many variations of it that we're not sure which is the original. Fortunately, the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, although it's part of the Mahabharata, it was maintained intact, so we can have confidence in the message. But these small differences don't change the message, so that's reassuring for us. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Very much appreciated. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj.
Jai.
Thank you for your attention. Very attentive.
Hare Krishna, everybody. We're going to offer Pushpanjali to Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj, so please stay for that. And they'll be followed by Guru Puja. Hare Krishna. So bear in mind to divide your flowers 3 sets of 3. So whatever flowers you have, split into 9. 3 sets of 3, 9. Yeah. Okay, please repeat. Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandehong Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvatangscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine Shri Parshabhanavi Devi Dayataya Kripaptaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhuryotshvala Premadja Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Varudapa Siddhanta Dvanta Harine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhaktivinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gravirbhava Bhumestvam Nirdishta Satjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannataya Te Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gauratvase Namaha Panchakatvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Suratau Pangor Mama Manda Matergati Matsarvasva Padambojo Radha Madana Mohano Devapyandaranya Kalpatrumadha Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Kristalibich Sevya Mano Smarami Shriman Rasarasarambhi Vangshi Vata Tatastitaha Karshan Venusvanar Gopir Gopinata Shriyestunaha Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Gaurakishoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambhode Padam Bhujayate Namaha Esha Pushpanjali Esha Pushpanjali Esha Pushpanjali Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasabali Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gurvani Pachani Namasinjavati Pachatastarani Namo Gaurakshoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambar Sambodhe Padambu Jayate Namaha Esha Pushpanjali Esha Pushpanjali Esha Pushpanjali Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Palismati Bhaktivedanta Swami Saraswati Devi Gurvani Pachani Viseshanvati Pachatastarani Namo Gaurakishoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padam Bhujayate Namaha Esha Pushpanjali Esha Pushpanjali Esha Pushpanjali Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasabali Smati Srila Gaurkishora Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Gati Sadma Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Bando Moi Savadhana Mate Bando Moi Savadhana Mate Jahara Prasade Bhai E Bhavatori Raja Krishna Prapti Ho Jaha Hoite Krishna Prapti Ho Jaha Hoite Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Jitete Go Riya Kya Arna kori ho mane asha Arna kori ho mane asha Charane rati aise uttama gati Shri Guru Charane rati aise uttama gati Prasad Pure Sarva Asha Jai Prasad Pure Sarva Asha Chakudano dilo jai janme janme Prabhu se Chakudano dilo jai janme janme Prabhu se Divya Jnana Hridaya Prakashito Divya Jnana Hridaya Prakashito Prema Bhakti Jaha Hote Avidya Vinashajate Prema Bhakti Jaha Hote Avidya Vinashajate Vedega Jahara Charito Vedega Jahara Charito Shri Guru Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu Lokanatha Lokera Jivana Lokanatha Lokera Jivana Ha ha Prabhu Koroya Deho More Padachaya Ha ha Prabhu Koroya Deho More Padachaya Ha ha Prabhu Kora Jaya Deho More Padachaya Ha ha Prabhu Kora Jaya Deho More Padachaya Ebe Jas Kushukre Bhuvana Ebe Jas Kushukre Bhuvana Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu Ha ha Prabhu Kora Daya Deho More Padachaya Ha ha Prabhu Kora Daya Deho More Padachaya Ebe Jas Kushukri Bhuvana Ebe Jas Kushukri Bhuvana Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Vaishnav Thakur Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Vaishnav Thakur Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Vaishnav Thakur Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvitesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol.
His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya, Asto Tarasata Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya, Asto Tarasata Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Gaur Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Premshikaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dhamma Ki Jai, Mayapur Dhamma Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Ganga Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Srimate Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj.